She needs to find herself.
Yeah. Any other questions?
What's your dream for yourself?
My dream for myself is to live authentically in my purpose and be able to eat. I realize that everything that I do on campus, I love. I sincerely found who I am by doing the work that I do. I found my voice. I found my personality. I found my work ethic. I found my attention to detail, my willingness to connect, and I found that this is a purpose. You know, people do mundane activities, people get involved, people volunteer, but this is authentically, I sincerely believe this is my purpose. So, yeah, I want to be able to continue to do this. I tell people, always ask, you know, as a graduating senior, you get that question, so what's next? And there's this awkward silence, and I'm like, I don't know. I really don't, because I have not been able to, I don't think what I'm supposed to do exists yet. The title doesn't exist yet. So what I'm doing now is I'm working on gaining the language to be able to articulate or create that title. So my ultimate goal is to seriously continue to do this, but actually find some way to eat and pay for shelter. Yes.
There are several thousand colleges in this country that have women's studies programs that would invite you to make some money and spread the word.
I definitely am working on that research. I am. It's
Work for PFLAG?
Hey, if PFLAG has a position open,
National office does.
okay. I'm looking.
Whoa!
But it's a top-level job, so I'm not sure.
Hey, I
Like
didn't
director of
manifest
the-
my way to the top.
She'd be willing to sacrifice.
Right. Never been a problem for me. All I need is a space and an opportunity to just be who I am.
Youth Pride is really,
Yeah,
they need women there.
yeah, I do. I want to get myself a little bit more involved. First on that scholarly level, because one thing
You
I
don't
will.
want us to run your life?
No. Well, immediately after college, I'll be gone for 5 weeks, God willing, if I can raise all this money. But I'll be in Brazil studying Afro-Brazilian culture, because I although the LGBT community has my heart and they definitely have my energy and spirit, I want to engage with every type of scholar and activism and academia that I can. I just want to soak up knowledge. So I'm exposing myself to as much as I can. When I come back, it's really about me just kind of developing continuing to develop who I am. So like my next goal is to really get involved in this transphobia and transgender movement, because I haven't, one, Spelman doesn't have a high population of out trans identified students. So a lot of the programming and training that I've done hasn't really been focused in the trans area. So I really want to get involved in educating myself on that fight and on that, you know, aspect of the movement, so that I can do work. Because I believe that, you know, women's studies, another thing, it gave me scholarship to back up how I feel. Because yes, this is personal, but there's a lot of scholarship out there that has helped me support and articulate why this is so serious and why it's so important. So I am working on finding that path. It's just a matter of really people, because I've been doing the work. It's strange to ask people to pay for what you do in this type of field, in a sense, for me. My friend who is in marketing, she tells me all the time, you need to start, you know, doing your website and branding yourself. And it sounds strange to me. I'm like, you know, like social activism, I don't know. It's a movement. You do it because it has to be done. But I do appreciate eating, and my mom's not gonna let me move back in with her. So, yes.
When you spoke about the, I think it was the frozen middle that
Yes.
you talked about,
Who was that exactly? Was that students or teachers or
No,
administrators?
It was administrators. So the deans, the provosts, the vice presidents of all of the major departments on campus, every person on campus who had a direct or indirect contact or influence on student life and engagement was in this room. So I was looking at approximately 25 individuals who had a lot of power in a sense as to what this campus felt like. And it was an interesting experience. I learned a lot about myself. I learned that I can't overcome, because when I tell you I was sick before I walked into that room, it was intimidating. And then I learned a lot about the assumption of knowing. Like, you assume that if you work for an academic institution and if you have a certain number of degrees and you work for a liberal arts college, that there's a certain amount of knowledge and awareness that you have that didn't exist in that room. A lot of people just simply didn't know. Like, we started off with the cisgender survey. Is everyone familiar with that? So it's a survey that kind of questions or forces you to look at ways in which you're privileged as a gender-conforming individual. So it asks questions like, I never have to worry about which bathroom to use when I'm in a public space. I never have to worry about going to a OBGYN in fear of being outed or exposed. Like, just things that we take for granted in everyday life simply because we have a privilege of just identifying with societal norms of gender, that students on campus don't necessarily have that privilege. I also asked them to take a heterosexual privilege, which asks the same type of questions. I don't have to worry about coming out as a heterosexual person. I don't have to worry about losing my church as a heterosexual person. It really got the mind thinking about where we are. And when you start thinking about ways in which you're privileged, you can't help but to think about ways in which others are oppressed. So by starting that conversation or starting that way, it opened up a conversation and opened up an atmosphere for them to for me to understand that, or to see where they fell short as far as social progression, and then for them to understand where their students are on this campus, because this was the realities of a large number of students on their campus.
And why do you think they were frozen?
I think they were frozen because Spelman is embedded in tradition, like many institutions. And one, you didn't have students bringing this to their attention, so it's easy to act like everything's okay when you as an individual feel okay. If someone doesn't bring that to my attention that things aren't right, I don't know. Because I'm walking around campus peaches and cream. Like, I feel good, I don't feel oppressed, everyone seems to be happy. So somebody had to bring it to their attention. And also, you had people who were in positions that were given the leeway to allow their personal views and personal stance on certain things to affect how they went about moving within their professional setting. This was the first time actually the second time in the history of Spelman, that a president actually spoke out publicly against heteronormativity and homophobia on campus. And this happened after a lot. Like, there was this big mishap that happened on our campus during National Coming Out Day, which is why I ended up having a conversation with the president, because it was the first time where I felt like Spelman really took a stance against the LGBT community, and it was the first time where the LGBT community said, oh no, we're not having it. And it really snowballed into this series of events that really forced a lot of dialogue about policies that are in place that do not protect our LGBT, queer identified, or trans identified faculty and staff members. Policies in place that really harm our LGBT student body, and then what we can do to change those policies. Yes.
I'm curious, 2004.